Do you have any idea how obnoxious that shirt is?
Who are you talking to?
I think he's talking to me. It's
Obviously
bright
not
orange.
you, Joey. That's a great shirt.
Thank you.
You want me
Take it off, Will.
fair.
Let's do a Skins episode. Joey in the library.
Yeah, strip.
People would think he's doing a porn cam.
Somebody would definitely call the police if I did that.
That's definitely where I'm starting this episode. Hello and welcome to Only Pod Forgives, or a movie podcast. I'm your host, Will Keys, and I'm joined by Joey Thyne, sitting in the library, and Ryan Suppe, sitting in his apartment. I hope that's not a library because you've got a six-pack of beers right next to you.
Why do you have to say that? Now my review doesn't mean as much because they're like, oh, he's just drunk.
I think it means more.
Yeah. No, it's in vino veritas, so it's actually honest. You're not trying to fool anybody.
I don't speak Spanish, Will.
That's fair, but you do speak the language of movies. And that's why you're on the show.
Goddamn right.
Oh boy.
Goddamn right. So we've got some big news. We talked about a couple passings last week. Talked about Stan Lee. We talked about HAL 9000, not the actual computer, but the guy who voiced him. And this week, an iconic Hollywood writer, William Goldman, wrote Princess Bride, All the President's Men, Butch Cassidy, and the Sundance Kid. He's left us at age 87. A pretty big loss for the writing and the Hollywood community. I just want to say, first and foremost, that my favorite movie that he's ever written is Good Will Hunting.
Shut up.
What do you guys think?
Is he supposed to be the guy who wrote that?
That's the rumor. I mean, I tend not to believe that 25-year-old Matt Damon and Ben Affleck sat down and produced that.
Well, that tends to be true, like 100%. So,
yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know where you're getting your sources, but sure.
I mean, if this is totally off topic, but if they did actually write that movie, then why did they never write anything ever again?
That's my question, Ryan.
He wrote Argo, didn't he?
Oh yeah, whatever.
Okay. Well, he didn't write Argo. It happened in real life.
Well, I think this is a tragic loss. I think that
Of course.
Princess Bride is probably one of the most rewatchable movies I've ever seen. And but he did live a full life. He was pretty old, and
Sure was.
Will be missed.
Yeah. I'm not going to be sad about him dying because he was old, and I don't think he was even writing anymore.
Yeah, so you can't be sad for him if he's retired. He's not giving anything back.
I say, peace be with you. Thanks for everything you did. Great movies. One of which we will talk about later, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I think so. The topic is Westerns, and of course, we are reviewing The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the new anthology film from the Coen Brothers. It's on Netflix, but that's later on. So we lost William Goldman, a guy who I don't wish we'd lose him the same way that we'd lose William Goldman, but I kind of just wish he'd go away at this point. James Cameron. He says that the Avatar sequels have wrapped filming. There's supposed to be like 5 of them. I think he's got like 2 through 5 in the works. He says they've wrapped filming. I just don't believe him.
I think it's supposed to be
on
2 and 3 are done.
Yeah, 2 and 3 are done.
Okay. It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't make any sense that you would film 3 before 2 has even come out. Nothing about these Avatar sequels makes sense to me.
That's just being cocky.
It sure is.
It's like, I don't give a shit what the audience thinks about the second one. We're rolling with the third.
And he's got 5 in the works. Who told you that we even wanted a second? Because nobody does.
Probably the hundreds of millions of dollars the first one made.
This is true.
Also, they've wrapped filming in front of a green screen for 2.5 hours. That means we have like 3 more years of editing, I'm sure.
Correct.
This is true.
They haven't actually made the movie yet.
I'm sure no like body motion camera work has been done. It's probably just Sigourney Weaver delivering a 30-second monologue on videotape, and that's all James Cameron needs to make the movie now. And everything else is going to be done on a computer / underwater. I wouldn't be surprised if James Cameron just did all of his work underwater. Seems like a place he just goes to get away from everybody else.
I know it's sort of a meme now that the original Avatar movie had no cultural impact, but I seriously don't remember a goddamn thing that happened in that movie.
Yeah, it's a meme, but it's absolutely true.
Never seen it.
The first Avatar?
I applaud you for not giving into peer pressure, because when I was in 8th grade when this movie came out, Ryan, you're obviously a year older than us, but Joey, the same age. All I knew of James Cameron at the time was Terminator and Titanic. And Avatar didn't really look all that appealing to me. I thought, here's a 5.5-hour movie that I really don't want to sit through with some annoying-ass 3D glasses. And somehow I got dragged along anyway. It was perfectly fine. Can't say that it was the best way to spend an evening, but by no means do I want another one, let alone 4 sequels.
Well, you got it. Doesn't really matter what you want.
No, it's about what James Cameron wants. And what James Cameron wants, let me tell you, James Cameron gets. I just wish he'd do something new, because he's a good director. He's a very capable director. And it just feels like he's spent his last 10 years, because the last movie he did was the first Avatar. He's produced Alita Battle Angel, which depends on what you guys think about that movie, but he hasn't directed a film since the original Avatar. It feels like he's just been chasing these sequels the last 9 years when he could be doing something new and original and interesting and something that people want to see that's still going to make money.
Yeah, it does seem a bit silly.
I'm not saying we need like Titanic 2 or, Terminator 7 or anything, but a new concept would be preferable.
I'm going to take a guess that his goal here is to step up the special effects to the next level, like he did with Avatar. So This is more about technical stuff than it is about making a movie that he wants to. I think he just wants to wow people like he did the first time.
Well, here's the
easiest to do that by using the same series or whatever.
Right. It's very easy to wow people for the first, 3 months that they see this, and then something new comes out, and all of a sudden, it's not that visually pleasing anymore. It's not the visual marvel it once was. I'm sure if you went back and saw the original Avatar, even in theaters, you'd be like, well, this is obviously a really good-looking movie. Not an interesting one, but a good-looking movie. But there's been more visually entertaining products that have come out in the meantime, in the last 9 years since. So I think that's going to be the case with the new one. And it makes you just want something that's going to have a little longer of a shelf life than just another Avatar, just blue people fucking for 5 hours again.
Well, that's going to happen with any movie where you're just going for special effects. Like I said, I've never seen Avatar, but I bet if I watched it right now, I'd be like, this looks like it was made in 2009.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Kind of like I watched Star Wars, and I'm like, I bet this was very cool at the time. This looks like it was made in 1970.
I don't get why those are mutually exclusive, though. Like, I thought that the newest Mad Max movie was very visually appealing, and I also thought it was a very good movie.
Yeah.
Correct.
Agreed.
So I don't know why I have to put all your eggs in one basket.
No, and that's not usually the case for James Cameron, because Titanic's, I think, a pretty good example of a movie that has a story that makes it rewatchable. It's kind of a polarizing movie, but I think it's generally a good one. And also, the visuals still hold up today. Like, you can see that it's a movie that's produced in the late 90s, but by and large, it holds up, 20 years later.
Yeah, I think it's a good-looking movie.
I don't sense that being the case for Avatar, 69 coming out in the year 2040. which will surely be the case. But enough James Cameron talk. I just want to say here and now, all further James Cameron news is banned until we at least get a trailer on the first Avatar. Ryan's snapping. He agrees. I'm tired of James Cameron talking a big game. Give us some footage or shut up forever. Moving on. A24. It's one of our collective favorite film studios, but they've signed a deal with Apple to produce a series of movies. So we don't really know how the movies are going to be distributed. We don't really know what kind of movies they're going to be, but it's an interesting partnership. You guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I sort of do. I think this is probably a bad move for Apple. A lot of these tech companies don't get into trouble because there's a law that says anything published online, it's not the responsibility of the platform. So Facebook and Apple and Google all say that they're not publishers. They don't publish information. That way they can't be held accountable. They just have a platform for it. But once you start making movies, like Amazon does now, and now apparently Apple will be doing, now that's a lot harder to argue, that you're not a publisher.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
I think it's a silly move. I don't know why they need to be making movies. I assume so they can release it straight onto iTunes or whatever, like Netflix does.
It feels like this is the precursor to some type of Apple video streaming service that competes with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and that whole deal. Because obviously you can buy video on Apple, but there's not like a pay-per-month service type of thing going on. It just feels like we have enough of those already. Like I've got my 3 that I watch, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And I could do without paying the $10 or $15 a month for a new service that I'll probably hardly watch.
I say props to them for going with A24. Good pick.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I feel like it's kind of a bad look for A24 though, because they're the cool indie movie producers, and Apple's this big evil corporation.
Yeah,
and it seems like they're doing fine on their own. They're getting, I mean, they won Best Picture at the Oscars 2 years ago, and they get all these nominations, and it's like low budget movies that make a lot of money. So I don't really know why they're doing it.
Well, they want to get into the streaming.
Yeah,
they act as a traditional distribution company studio without distribution. So right now they're just relying on DVDs. So I think other studios should probably get on board with that. I mean, sign a deal with somebody.
But don't all their movies currently go to Amazon Prime?
Yeah, they
all
do.
Movies go to Amazon Prime.
Oh, really?
No, but like the streaming service, the free.
Oh,
well, every movie goes to Amazon to rent and to buy, but only like a select few go to the streaming service. So like Good Time comes out in the fall, and then by
gotta watch that again.
February,
fucking love
you can
that
turn on Amazon Prime and watch it whenever for free. Included with the service, I should say, not free. But yeah, most of them do come out on Amazon, so that could have an impact. Which actually, now that I think about it, I don't want this at all, because that's one of my favorite things about Amazon Prime is that I can watch all the A24 movies like a few months after they're in theaters. So I've decided this is actually very bad news, and I'm very angry.
I wonder if they would just expand Apple Music to make it both movies and music. I don't know.
No, yeah, I think that's a good idea, honestly. I think they'll do whatever makes them more money, and if they decide that people will pay for music and video separately, they'll probably stick with that. And if they decide that the price point would have to include music and video simultaneously, then they're sure as hell going to do that. But like I said, I think we're good with streaming services where they're at right now. That could prove to be a very, very dumb, unprophetic statement in a few years when there's like 1,000 streaming services to choose from, like there are channels right now on TV. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, that's what I would prefer, some sort of competition.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. It's just like it's not the competition when you have to like make a tough decision and cancel one subscription and pay for another. I don't know, man.
That's how they become better.
It's
if
true.
There is no competition. There's no incentive for Netflix to improve, right? If you're going to subscribe anyway.
If you guys had to pick between the three, just one, you only get one, Hulu, Amazon, or Netflix, which one are you going with?
Hulu.
Joey?
I'm going with Hulu.
That's tough. I'd probably still stick with Netflix, if I'm being honest.
I think I go for Amazon Prime, just because they've got all the HBO shows.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Amazon Prime has by far the best movies. Got decent originals. I think Netflix probably they have the most originals, which kind of gives them the best originals in the process. But I think Amazon's got the best content by and large. But that should probably lead us into our review, speaking of Netflix, because they came out with another original movie, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, directed by the Coen Brothers, starring Tim Blake Nelson, Liam Neeson, Brendan Gleeson, Zoe Kazan,
Dom Hall
James
Gleason?
Franco.
No, he retired. He retired after 2015. Right?
That's true. Yeah, no, he hasn't made a movie since then.
He had such a good year.
Yeah. He's like, it's like a quarterback winning the Super Bowl and riding off into the sunset. He's like, I've done everything here. I'm in Star Wars now.
He won like 2 Super Bowls, like back to back.
Yeah, no, in the same year, basically.
I'm done.
Super Bowl MVP, Domhnall Gleeson calls it a career after 2015. But yeah, no, his dad was
2016, wasn't it? 2016 or 15?
15.
I think we're splitting there, should be, yeah. Well, in a lot of good stuff. Let's just say that. Him and who's the other red-haired guy we like to talk about? Has a great agent, Joey?
Oh,
Jesse Plemons.
Lucas. Oh, I was gonna say Lucas Hedges.
Also, Lucas Hedges. He's in pretty much everything.
How are these redheads getting all these roles?
It might be the redhead. It might be. Yeah, we got her, the girl from Jumanji, Karen Gillan. She's also a redhead. She's in a lot of stuff. It's hot in the streets these days. But anyway, we've got a great.
This is random. This is random. But if somebody put a gun to my head, and I had to tell the difference between Bryce Dallas Howard and what's that other girl that looks like Bryce Dallas Howard that's in a bunch of movies?
Yeah, the girl from Jessica Chastain.
Yes. Yeah. If I had to tell the difference between those two, I would die.
I was buying time until it came to me in my head. Sure enough, it did. Yeah, no, that's pretty tough. That's, they're basically identical. I don't want to say all redhead girls look the same, but they kind of look.
Well, for the record, Jessica Chastain is a far better actor than.
I wouldn't know. Yeah. I have no idea who that is.
Everybody knows Bryce Dallas Howard did great work in Zero Dark 30.
No, also you're going to confuse Joey. You're going to confuse him.
I was honestly like, yeah, she did.
No, those are Jessica Chastain movies. The only one I've seen with Howard is Jurassic World.
That's
true.
Chastain?
Joey, wait, quick question. Which one of those is in that Black Mirror episode?
Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Correct.
Yep. So anyway, I guess we were talking about the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. How dare you get us off topic, Joey?
We should do a new game. Can you guess? Is this Bryce Dallas Howard or Jessica Chastain?
Okay. I've got one really quickly.
Okay.
The kid from Opie from the Andy Griffith Show. Which one is it?
Well, I think you can guess that one. Who's got more connections in Hollywood?
Oh, Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Whose dad is Ron Howard?
Think about this one.
Okay, let's do the review.
All right, so this movie is a Western. We're going to be talking about our favorite Westerns later. This kind of prompted it. But it's an anthology film, I think, more importantly. And it's got 6 different little short films kind of wrapped up into one larger film. So we've got – I might struggle with the names here, but we've got – the first one is the eponymous Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Oh, no, you're not going to name all of them, are you?
I might. I don't know. We've got the one with James Franco.
We're trying to entertain here, Will.
I'm just trying to lay out a little framework for people.
We're not historians.
We know where we're coming from. Yeah, we've got other ones. There's one with Liam Neeson. There's one with Zoe Kazan.
6 total. You said that, right?
One with Tom Waits, and then one with Brendan Gleeson at the end. What did you guys think overall? Because I have different opinions. It's hard to judge this movie because there were parts that I liked a lot more than others. So what do you guys think about this as a whole?
Joey?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I agree with Will that there was definitely vignettes I enjoyed more than others. At first, I was really confused why the Coen Brothers would go with Netflix. I was kind of pissed off, honestly.
Yeah.
But now that I didn't really realize it was an anthology, so I guess I can kind of see now why they went with that. I think it seems like these were sort of underdeveloped ideas that the Coen Brothers had in their back pocket that they were like, we're never going to use these to make a feature film. So what if we just sort of smushed them all together? Yeah, I enjoyed it, definitely. I would say that my favorite was the Oregon Trail one. I thought that was really good.
That was a good one. That was one of the longer ones.
Yeah.
They kind of got longer as it went along. I think my favorite was still the first one. I think it was the Ballad of Buster Scruggs with Tim Blake Nelson. Yeah. It was basically like a live action cartoon, sort of. He was like Bugs Bunny, just going into these different establishments and causing havoc, and then somehow getting out without a scratch every time. He's just like this mythical gunslinger that goes untouched throughout his career until he gets into a final duel with an equally matched gunslinger. And I won't spoil it, but I think that one was up there. You can make a case for the third one as well. Was pretty great. The one with Liam Neeson and Harry Potter's brother.
Yeah, I had to Google who that was.
The limbless orator.
I like that one a lot too. One thing that bothered me was I feel like you can really tell in a Coen Brothers movie when they don't use Roger Deakins, and I felt like some of the shots in this looked really like fake almost. Like some of the colors were really saturated, and I don't know if they're using green screens or something for some of the shots, but yeah.
I think
Raj back in there.
The last one, The Mortal Remains, especially that shot where Saul Rubinek peeks his head out of the stagecoach to yell to the coachman to stop. Yeah. You could tell that was like a pretty bad green screen. I don't know if that's like a production cost thing or what have you, but yeah, I mean, you could see how this like made it straight to Netflix rather than getting its own theatrical release. Well, I guess it did because this technically came out in a pretty limited release a week ahead of time, but I think that was solely for Oscar aspirations, which I don't know if this is going to be. I think it's good. I just don't know if it's going to be up there with any Oscar movies at the end of the year, purely because I don't think they're huge on anthology movies.
Yeah, I think it'd be a tough sell.
Yeah, and you just kind of – another thing, like I did like this too, but I kind of just wanted a straightforward feature from the Coens.
Me too.
Because I felt so underwhelmed by their last movie, Hail Caesar, that I wanted something to get that taste out of my mouth. And this was good, but I don't know if it did the job entirely. What do you think, Ryan?
Well, about the movie as a whole, I loved it. I thought it was great. Thought it was a Netflix movie. It felt like a Netflix movie. I probably wouldn't. I think I'd be disappointed if I saw this in theaters.
Yeah.
But I was also disappointed by Hail Caesar, which felt like a Netflix movie.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, these guys can do no wrong, in my opinion, except for maybe Hail Caesar. But yeah. I need to watch it. I need to watch it again. But they just know how to make fun of people, just how to make jokes. And I thought
they do.
I thought each one of these short stories was equally good. Terrific twists, just fun, like twists that pack as much punch as a feature film would.
Right. Yeah, no, it felt like a book of short stories, and there was either a twist or the twist was that there was no twist when you were expecting one.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. I don't know. It felt like Coen Brothers, for sure.
Did you have one favorite over the others?
I don't know. I had favorite parts. I loved the gold miner one.
Yeah, Tom Waits singing.
How beautiful was that scenery? My gosh.
Oh yeah,
pretty great. Plus his voice too. I love it. I love Tom Waits' music in the first place, so I always love seeing him in a movie.
I loved the part where James Franco has the rope around his neck and his horse is eating the grass.
Yeah.
Like how they made something so mundane so stressful.
Yeah.
I actually thought the orator one was kind of boring until you get to the end.
Yeah.
I think they dragged it on a little bit too much.
I think they kind of needed to, though, just to give that ending a little extra punch.
Yeah, you're probably right, but
I don't know if I'd want to sit like it wouldn't be if I was going to rewatch one of them tomorrow. It definitely wouldn't be that one, but that one, the ending might be the most memorable. If I was going to rewatch one right now, it'd be the first one, no question.
Yeah, I guess I didn't like the first one as much as you did, but I mean, it was funny. I totally agree with cartoonish.
Yeah,
it definitely was, and that made it funny.
Yeah, well, it also had the voice of Mr. Krabs getting killed in one of the most unique ways that I've ever seen in a movie.
Also, that song, Banger, like you said earlier.
Yeah, no, I texted you guys last night, and I was watching it. Surly Joe, when he gets up in the bar and starts singing and dancing, that was one of my favorite moments. I was like, I don't even want this part to end. I want this to be the whole movie. But I think it probably wouldn't have been sustainable, so I'm glad it did, but just a great way to kick it off.
I'd say I think the entire movie is cartoonish, and I think that's sort of the point.
Yeah.
They're making fun of Westerns in a way. They're making fun of the way that we want to see Westerns with heroes and just,
Yep.
There are no heroes in this movie.
Yeah, no. So there's each one I think has its own theme or its own message. But I think there's a bigger overarching theme. There's kind of a theme of death throughout all of them, and how the Old West is just a very unforgiving place. But I think so you had that common thread between all six of them, but each of them also had something that made them unique and some kind of theme that you could take away from the individual parts. So I think each one of them was pretty worthwhile. I just watched the last one before we recorded, and I don't know if I wasn't quite in the right mindset or wasn't paying attention enough, but I didn't really get as much out of that one as I did from the other five. I don't know if I'm missing something, but what did you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely need to rewatch that one. I mean, it was sort of like a part of a play, just a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to rewatch that one.
That's the Coen Brothers.
Love me some dialogue. After the last two movies that we reviewed, thank God. I thought the last one I thought it was interesting. I think the point was these three people were sort of set in their ways, confident about their lives and their beliefs, and then like immediately once they're faced with death, like these bounty hunters could kill us if they wanted to, they sort of lose all of their confidence, lose, all of their beliefs.
Yeah,
lose
no,
their
I think
whole,
that's a good point.
their whole character, really.
And I think this just goes to show, like, this did a good job of showing the versatility of the Coen brothers, because you have like the one of them is super cartoony, like we said, and the last one is very dialogue heavy. And then you have the one Meal Ticket, the one with Liam Neeson and Harry Potter's brother, Dudley. I think his name is Harry Melling.
Dudley?
That's Dudley, yeah.
He's looking slim.
Yeah. I didn't know that was him.
Slim. He's got to have like the tiniest face in proportion to the rest of his head, but a very good actor.
I agree. He was good in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was going to say is you have the dialogue heavy parts, and then you have that one, Meal Ticket, which is like a classic example of show, don't tell, which the Coen brothers can do really, really well if they want to. It's something that I think makes No Country for Old Men such a good movie, which I think we'll probably talk about later. But they just have so many different ways to write a scene, and they can do it. They can do it with dialogue. They can do it with just all visual cues. They can do it breaking down the fourth wall. It's kind of just what makes them who they are and so talented. They just have so many ways to make a good movie, and it was almost like they were showing off by showing like we can put all this different filmmaking all into 1 2-hour block.
Yeah. They're the type of filmmakers that even their absolute worst work I would still watch, because they're just so smart and their stuff is so entertaining.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen I haven't seen Lady Killers, and I haven't seen Intolerable Cruelty, which most people say is their worst two movies. I think the worst Coen Brothers movie I've seen, it's not even that bad, is probably Burn After Reading or Hail Caesar, I guess. And even then, like, they're good movies if you strip away the expectations of them being Coen Brothers movies in the first place.
Yeah, I think off that, it was especially hard for Burn After Reading because that was their first after No Country for Old Men, right?
Yeah, and it took just such a different tone.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But if you took Burn After Reading and put it in a pool with its other comedies that are in the same genre,
right,
that is far and above going to be at the top. Like, if you didn't know it was Coen Brothers,
yeah, you're absolutely
like,
right. Yeah,
holy shit, this movie's funny, clever.
Yeah, no, it just gives you the sense that like they can do whatever type of movie they want to, and they can do it well too.
Yeah, going off what you were saying earlier, I think the physical comedy in Buster Scruggs on point.
Yeah,
like turn the sound off and this thing will still be funny.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's one of those like this and Meal Ticket. You know exactly what's going on if you turn the sound off. The other one's not quite as much. Oh, maybe with I take it back with the gold miner scene with Tom Waits. You'd probably turn the sound off, and you'd have an idea what's going on as well.
Yeah, I'm not recommending that you watch this without sound. I'm just saying.
No, we're just making a point that this is like how good they are at filmmaking, at directing.
Yeah,
kind of their strength.
I know, Will, I know you've mentioned this before, but it would be nice to see the Coen brothers do a movie that's not a period piece.
Yeah.
As well as, I mean, Tarantino and PTA and maybe even Scorsese.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. The last one must have been Burn After Reading, really.
Yeah.
Because even No Country for Old Men is a period piece. It's set in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then like Hail Caesar, obviously, Inside Llewyn Davis. which we all love, I'm pretty sure. No, them, Tarantino, I don't think Tarantino will ever go back to present day. He's just going to make this movie with DiCaprio and Pitt, and then he's going to go back to 9 other Westerns before he finally retires. Scorsese, I have no idea.
Maybe present day is fucking uninteresting. Maybe that should be a hint.
Well, I also think that living in the Old West was probably uninteresting.
It's true.
And just looking back on it it's exciting.
I think a good filmmaker can make a movie set anywhere at any time and make it interesting.
That's true.
And I think they just like to challenge themselves, A, and B, I think they get so wrapped up in making their movies an homage to movies that they loved growing up. How Tarantino always talks about all the spaghetti westerns and blaxploitation films that he loved growing up, that he wants to pay tribute to those, and maybe he gets caught up in that. But that seems to be the direction we're heading, for better or worse. But back to this movie, to give it like a verdict or a final grade, I'd give it like a B+, A-. I think it was pretty strong. Obviously, I want to see a feature from the Coens, but I think I got what I was expecting and probably a little bit more out of this.
Yeah, I agree with that grade.
I'm giving it 5 out of 5.
Damn.
Definitely watch it.
Pretty strong.
I will add, if I saw it in the theater, my grade would be different. But it wasn't made for the theater. It was made for Netflix. So that's how I'm going to grade it.
Yeah, no, like
5 out of 5. Best Netflix movie I've ever seen.
We all saw I was thinking about that too. I was thinking after I watched it, like, is this the best Netflix movie to ever come out? And I think it's definitely the most appropriate Netflix movie. Because there's good Netflix movies that you wish had come out in theaters, or you had at least seen in theaters. Like, we all saw Outlaw King, and I think we all agreed that would have been best enjoyed in the movie theaters. Something like Beast of No Nations, too. I think it came out in theaters, but most people saw it on Netflix, and I think had you seen it in theaters, it probably would have been best enjoyed.
Yeah.
This one, I feel like I don't feel like I was missing anything, really.
Do you think that Netflix tried to convince them to make it into a mini-series where each vignette was a full episode, and they were like, go fuck yourselves?
No, they did. I was just reading about that.
Oh, really?
They wanted a TV series, yeah. And Coen Brothers said no.
They're smart enough to know that these stories can't fill 22 minutes.
Well, I mean, they could if they wanted to, but it would be a lot of work and money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like it. I don't know. Yeah, they're better seen back to back to back to back to back because they all have the same overarching theme. Like I said before, they're all interconnected. Little vignettes about death in some way, death in the Old West, and I feel like they go best together, seen all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we agreed. We like this movie. Ryan, any last thoughts?
No, I'll just say it was perfect. No complaints.
All right. So good work out of Joel and also Ethan Coen. We're going to find out in like 20 years that there's a third Coen brother who's been doing all the
He's the brains.
Yeah.
He's like the third
Sloth.
Manning brother.
They leave him in the closet.
All he does, he's like, they just feed him. They slip him food underneath the door. Write us another script, pig. Yeah. Tacitus Coen. He's the inbred member of the family. Anyway, on the subject of Westerns, I think we're going to talk about our top 5 Westerns. So I didn't really pose this question before, and this is a little on the spot, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So what do you guys like? What do you guys want to see in a Western? Like, if you're going into a Western, what are like some of the elements that you feel like you need to see to make it feel like an authentic Western movie?
Big-dicked white guys who take what's owed to them.
You joke, but I think you're kind of on the money.
That's not a fucking joke.
Oh,
God,
what is that?
That is my cat who desires attention at the moment.
You want to ask her what she thinks about Westerns?
She's not interested.
No, that's too bad. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe she is.
She likes art house movies.
Oh, ooh la la. I'm just going to apologize in advance because I really am not that educated in Western movies and haven't seen most of the classics. So my list is going to be trash.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of the classics either. I haven't seen The Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
What?
Those movies. Yeah, I know. I'm warning you in advance. So my list is pretty uneducated. I'm kind of a pleb when it comes to Westerns, like Joey said. But I'm just going to give you the 5 that I've seen, and we can talk about it. We can say how we feel. We can argue like last week.
All right, let's do it.
So let's start with let's do Joey, me, and then Ryan.
So we're just blowing through our first 2.
Yeah, we're gonna do 5 through 1, but we're gonna blow through 5 and 4, and then we're gonna spend more time on 3 through 1. So Joey, what's your 5?
My number 5 is another Coen Brothers movie, True Grit. Just a good movie. Jeff Bridges, love that dude.
Also Matt Damon.
Yeah, he's all right.
One of the things I noticed about this movie, which I don't notice in other
Blow through,
Westerns,
Will.
I just want to make this one point. No contractions. They don't say like I won't. They say I will not every single time. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if they had contractions back in the Old West, but that's probably for another episode. Anyway, my number 5 is High Noon. This came out in the 50s. John Wayne hated this movie because it was what's the word? Not a metaphor, not an analogy.
Communism?
Allegory for, it's an allegory for the blacklisting that went on in Hollywood.
Oh, that was just a guess.
No, it was. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's always communism.
Basically. Yeah. So this and the Crucible, basically.
Yeah.
Ryan, your number 5.
My number 5 is Lonesome Dove.
Okay.
Not really a movie, more like an epic TV series, but TV movie, about 6 or 7 hours. I'm going to call it a movie.
Oh, we'll accept it. We'll accept it. Joey, you want to give us your number 4?
My number 4 is Django Unchained, starring Jamie Foxx and Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by Quentin Tarantino. Good movie.
Yeah, I was like, it's clearly a Western.
Yeah.
But it's just...
Nobody's arguing with you, Will.
I'm arguing with myself, Ryan.
It's in some ways it's kind of a parody or just super over the top homage.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add that scene when Jamie Foxx confronts his former slave owners who used to beat his wife, and that flashback scene. I mean, all that put together is so good.
It is, yeah.
I've looked that up on YouTube before, just watched that scene. Or I've literally gone on Netflix and just skipped ahead to that one scene.
Yeah.
So good. Music, everything, so good.
Honestly,
go ahead.
It honestly might be my favorite post-Pulp Fiction Tarantino movie, unless I'm completely blanking on one.
Kill Bill.
Inglourious Bastards.
Nah, I actually like Django more than Inglourious Bastards.
It's an acceptable take.
Yeah, but
next. If for some reason you haven't seen this movie and you don't have Netflix or anything, and you're a peasant, this movie is free on YouTube. I just found it a few days ago. The scene where they're both riding together, and I Got a Name by Jim Croce is playing, is one of my favorite scenes in any Tarantino movie.
Yeah,
it's a good pick. My number 4 is an older movie from the 1940s, directed by John Huston, Treasure of the Sierra Madre. This movie can be best summed up as the movie that Paul Thomas Anderson watched every night while he was filming There Will Be Blood. And also the quote, "We don't need no stinking badges." So I think that's how most people will remember this movie, Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Ryan, you're number 4?
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Is There Will Be Blood a Western?
You know what? As soon as the words came out of my mouth,
I was thinking that immediately too.
Just dips by number 1.
Yeah, let's just suffice to say, if it is a Western,
no, it's not a Western.
I know, I'm saying, but if it was a Western in some person's mind, we're not including it for the sake of parity and competition in this list.
We'll call it an honorable mention for the 3 of us.
Okay.
Yep.
My number 4 is Rio Bravo.
Who's in this movie?
John Wayne, Dean Martin.
Dino.
I forget the third guy. Classic, what would you even call this genre? The bad guys roll into town.
Yeah.
They got to protect themselves, the town. The 3 of them are all good guys, but they have their own problems.
Yeah, white hat, black hat.
John Wayne has no problems, just a past with a woman. Dean Martin's an alcoholic.
Is it Ricky Nelson?
Ricky Nelson, yeah. Good music in this. Ricky Nelson on the guitar. My God, he's good. Good movie, though. Directed by Howard Hawks, I believe.
Yep.
Who I love. His Girl Friday, one of my favorite movies of all time. If you haven't seen that, watch it.
Just an unrelated question about old Hollywood. Were there just I don't know, was there a higher concentration of good movies, or a higher ratio of good movies to bad movies? Or do we just not talk about the millions of bad movies that came out?
That's a good question.
This might be something that we have to explore, but I think we just had a better concentration of good movies back in the day.
That could be true.
Anyway, we'll get off of that tangent. And Joey, give us your number 3 favorite Western.
So just before we started recording, we were debating whether or not this was a Western, but I'm going to say The Revenant, starring Leonardo DiCaprio from 2015, 16?
2015.
Just one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Also one of the most violent movies I've ever seen. Great performances. I honestly didn't think of that much to say. It does take place in the Old West. That's why I'm counting it as a Western.
Very hard to argue there. I don't
argue with me, Ryan, please.
I can't argue that it takes place in the Old West. This is a fact.
Well, it's Canada.
It is?
Yeah.
I thought it was a Pacific.
I thought it was shot in Canada.
Oh, maybe you're right.
But it takes place in Montana, Dakota area, which is definitely the Old West. But I can see the argument. But make your argument.
Well, I don't have much of an argument. My argument is, a Western when you see it.
Right. It's true.
This does not look like one.
It's like pornography.
Just because it's cold? Just because there's snow?
Well, there's snow in Django.
Tell me, if that movie's the same thing, but it was in a desert, would it not be a Western?
I don't think he would have the same problems if it was in a
totally changed the movie.
Desert.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've never seen a bear in the desert, Joey.
Well, he gets attacked by a bighorn sheep.
Yeah.
Just puts one of those horns right up his butt.
Yeah. I like the pick. Great movie.
Yeah.
Just not totally convinced it's a Western.
That's fair.
But I'm open to changing the dynamic of Westerns because they've all been the same for a long time. So I like your pick. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I'd if I was in the mood, I'd rather watch this than 3:10 to Yuma or something like that.
Boy, I like that movie.
Yeah, me too. I was actually thinking about putting it on my list. Oh, I didn't.
Do you guys think like this movie got enough credit right when it came out? Because I don't think it did.
Revenant?
Yeah. I think a lot of people decided that they did not like it before they ever saw it.
I agree.
And there was a whole lot of talk about the filming. Like, that's all I ever read from critics.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. I don't care if people die if it's a good movie.
Fuck, yeah. I mean, this is a higher art. This is more than just one person, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people describe it as gore porn or just like a snuff film. But
give me a break.
I mean, it is very violent.
Yeah, they talk about it like Eli Roth directed this movie.
But yeah, that's my pick, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. Also, yeah, this movie came out like the height of the like toxic masculinity craze in 2015.
When I saw this movie in the theater, I left the theater and I texted somebody at the time, I forget who, and I said, "This is the best movie of our generation."
I had a similar reaction. Like, I loved this movie immediately after walking out of the theater.
On a second watch, I changed my mind. It wasn't quite as good the second time, but still great.
It's much, much better. You'd have to see this movie in theaters the first time.
I was also jerking off every night to Alejandro Iñárritu after Birdman.
Yeah, it's true.
I was like, this guy's so good. This guy's so good. And then I watched 21 Grams. I was like, this guy is Jesus. Right before I saw The Revenant. So I think that probably made me a little biased.
It is pretty insane that he made Birdman won Best Picture, and then the next year he had The Revenant out. I mean, obviously don't know the schedule of production, but that's insane.
I mean, it was a pretty simple movie.
Which one?
The Revenant.
But they only shot it like they're only like two like very quick periods of the day they could shoot it, like right when the sun came up and then right when it was going to go down, like magic hour. I thought that was like the only time they shot. So I can't imagine, like, I don't know.
That's why there were so many good shots.
It amazes me how movies get made at all. So what do I know?
Plus, I mean, like that first scene and some of the other big set pieces, it's insane that they pulled that off at all. Yeah. Not even just in the matter of 2 hours or whatever it was.
Well, lots of help from the computer. And you can tell in the opening scenes.
Yeah.
Lots of help.
Yeah, this is based off of the outline of a true story, basically. It's a book, first of all, by Michael Punke. And it's supposed to be about the story of Hugh Glass getting left for dead after he was mauled nearly to death by a giant bear who he killed, and then the bear fell on him. And then there are obviously a ton of liberties taken with the story, but I'll never forget Tom Hardy's role in this movie.
He was so gross.
Completely disappears into character.
Yeah.
And it won Leo an Oscar, but I think we've said enough about this movie already.
Well, I'll just add, it's also true that Hugh Glass had a half Native American son that was murdered.
Is it?
That's true, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So I'll give him a little more credit. My number 3 is Tombstone. Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, Val Kilmer, Michael Biehn. Mostly just listing people in the cast because I don't really know what to say about this movie. Billy Bob Thornton. A lot of people in this movie. A lot of good people in this movie. It's kind of your classic commercial Western, but I think it does a really good job. Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday joined forces to take down a gang in Tombstone, Arizona.
It sounds like a 1990s version of the A-Team.
Yeah, basically. Sort of. A little bit. Yeah, no, Wyatt Earp basically has decided that he's done. He's done sheriffing. And guess what? Sheriffing decides that it's not done with Wyatt Earp. And so he's called back into action. And a lot of people die. And a lot of people get sick. And a lot of people get shot. And that's just how the Old West was. And they captured it pretty well. So, Tombstone, set, of course, in Tombstone, Arizona. I think this is from 1991, I want to say, possibly 1993, but definitely check it out. That's my number 3.
All right. You're going to have to do some editing. I've really got to piss. So before I go.
Joey, why don't you no, actually go piss.
Yeah. I was about to pause it. I'm like, can't fucking pause it. Yeah.
All right, so we're not going to edit this out, but while Ryan's gone, what should we say behind his back?
What should we say about it behind his back? Just get Veggie Burger up there.
Yeah. Excuse me, ma'am.
Mrs. Burger.
Yeah. What do you think her favorite Westerns are? The Ridiculous Six.
Probably Birth of a Nation.
The original or the new one?
Original.
I don't think that counts as a Western just because it was like...
Don't tell me that. Tell her.
I think it was because it was the only movie that was actually made in the Western era. People were so fucking dumb back then that they saw that movie of literally just a train rolling into a station and they jumped out of their chairs and then they're like, oh God, it's coming right for us. People were, I love to make fun of just how dumb people were back then because they were just so stupid.
Did you ever watch that movie that Picasso made that made people like throw rocks at them and stuff?
I haven't seen the full thing, but I've seen scenes of it.
Yeah, it's horrible. All right, Ryan, pick number 2. No, what? 3.
Right.
My number 3 is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This is a Western directed by Sergio Leone, starring Clint Eastwood. It is the third in a trilogy of which surrounds who they call the man with no name, Clint Eastwood. He sort of plays the same man through the 3 movies, but it's very vague who he is, his backstory. All that matters is these are action movies driven by plot, not really driven by characters, even though the characters are fantastic. But yeah, they're action movies, I think.
What are the other 2 in the trilogy called?
The first is called A Fistful of Dollars,
right?
Which I also love. I think that's the second best out of the 3. That one's kind of a comedy almost. It's very funny and kind of goofy, but still high stakes, great action. The second is For a Few Dollars More. Also good. Great finale in that one. Takes place in a Mexican town that it sort of becomes a ghost town at the end. Like everybody leaves except for the good guys and the bad guys. And it's like almost like a haunted house movie where the whole finale takes place within an area and the stakes are you die or you kill the bad guy. Beautiful. But yeah, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly it feels like a finale of a trilogy and totally unrelated to the first 2, but totally better. It's sort of a Civil War movie.
Yeah.
That's the backdrop is the Civil War, but it's really a Western about guys just trying to get rich and doing whatever it takes. It's a fantastic climax in a graveyard. Great music, Ennio Morricone. Yeah, Sergio Leone is the best.
Morricone, basically the godfather of Western music.
Yeah.
Started off with probably like the first wave of Westerns, or maybe not the first wave, but like the second wave. And then all the way to The Hateful Eight a few years ago. He came back and did the score for that. So he's basically been involved with like half of the important Westerns. So I'm sure his name is involved in more than just this movie that we're listing. Probably other movies on our list that we don't even realize he did the music for. But brings us back to Joey, your number 2 favorite Western.
So this is a satirical Western, but it's a Western nonetheless. And that's
The Ridiculous Six.
No, it's Blazing Saddles. If you guys have ever seen this movie, it's definitely a dad movie. All dads love this movie.
Absolutely, 100%. And if you tell a dad you've never seen this movie, he'll just fight you right there. He'll kick your ass.
Definitely doubt your manhood.
Oh yes,
this is Airplane.
Yeah,
beat the shit out of you if you say you haven't seen it.
Most of the comedies that my dad shows me from that era, I don't really like. Like, I don't really like Caddyshack, and I don't really like Animal House. But I think this movie holds up as very funny, and I also think it's a well-made movie. What's his name? Willy Wonka.
Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder. Cleavon Little. I believe it was originally supposed to be Richard Pryor, but then he set himself on fire while he was freebasing, so he couldn't make it.
It happens.
Mel Brooks directed it, who was sort of the original satirical guy for movies.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame that parody movies have gotten so bad with like the whole epic movie thing that nobody really makes them anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, if there was no Mel Brooks, there would be no Wayans Brothers movies, which now that I think about it, maybe we're on to something.
Oh, White Chicks? Fucking love that movie.
That is a funny movie.
I'll take Scary Movie 1, perhaps 2 as well.
And 2. 2's good. I love 3 too.
Okay, well, why don't you just admit you love all their movies?
Yeah, if any of them are on Comedy Central, I will watch them.
Yeah.
I love all of the Madea movies as well.
Number 3, when the ring girl picks up the chainsaw, she's like... Yeah.
This is great because people can't see what you just did.
They know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, probably, if they've seen it. My number 2. We already talked about the Coen Brothers today, so I think you guys know where I'm going with this one. Set during the 1980s, based off of the book by Cormac McCarthy. I'm talking about No Country for Old Men. Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Tommy Lee Jones, Woody Harrelson. This movie is just the tightest, most perfectly paced, beautiful, violent, and just ruthless movie I've ever seen. I love everything about this movie. I think it's the Coen Brothers' best movie. But I also don't think it's the best Western. But just because I don't think it's a pure Western, it's kind of I don't know, what kind of movie would you guys call it?
Crime drama.
Like a pursuit type of movie? It's a little bit of a thriller.
Thriller.
Crime thriller, I think, is a good way to describe it. This is kind of just a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier with the Coen Brothers doing their show don't tell method, because this is a movie that's like, it's pretty sparse on dialogue for a lot of the movie, but the dialogue that you do hear always means just a ton, even if it's not, necessarily exposition, or it's like moving the plot along. Kind of the dialogue kind of gives you an idea of the theme, and everything else just kind of helps you with the plot. Also, this movie is nearly without music. There's a little bit of music, I think, in the beginning, but for the most part, it's all diegetic sound, which I think is pretty impressive. It's kind of a departure for the Coens, just because they haven't really made anything like it before then or since. But I think it's one of the rare movies that you read the book and then you see the movie and you're like, well, I love the book and I think it's great on its own, and I love the movie, and I can't decide which one I like more.
Yeah. So this was actually my number one pick, so I'm just going to piggyback off Will and say my shit. I totally agree with the whole Cormac McCarthy thing, because I think one of the testaments to the movie is that Cormac McCarthy is probably the hardest writer to adapt ever, because he has such a vivid and poetic prose. And I think they did a wonderful job while maintaining their style, and especially bringing Sugar to life, who's quite possibly the most terrifying villain ever.
Yep. Javier Bardem, famously, when they gave him his haircut for this movie to play Anton Chigurh, said, I'm not going to get laid for the next 3 months, which probably untrue because he's Javier Bardem. And if anybody's seen Vicky Cristina Barcelona, you'd know that man has sex no less than 5 times a day.
Yeah.
He might have been onto something for, a week or two, but this movie's perfect. This movie is it's just like, it's got all these things coming together. It's got these 3 central characters coming together. And then in the third act, there really is no third act.
Yeah.
It just kind of ends at the second act. And I think it's for the better. We're expecting this big showdown because we're conditioned to believe that the good guy and the bad guy have to meet at some point, and they just don't. It subverts everything we know about these types of movies, and Coen Brothers just pull it off goddamn expertly.
I was thinking today, actually, about the Coen Brothers. And it was while I was watching The Big Lebowski, because obviously I had to watch that after watching the Buster Scruggs movie.
Yep, naturally.
But they make a lot of Westerns. And, they make a lot of movies about the West or set in the West. And these are 2 East Coast intellectuals. I believe they grew up in New York, went to very expensive schools, went to Ivy League colleges, and they've decided for some reason to set most of their movies in the West. Even Fargo is like, it's not quite the West, but it sort of is. Yeah. And I don't know what it is, if it's like the isolation or the desire for progress, growth, whatever it is. If that's the best setting to make fun of people, because you should kind of strip everything else down, Like even Raising Arizona is fantastic and simple. And I think part of the reason is because they're in the middle of nowhere and only have their own problems to deal with. Like live in a trailer. Like Nicolas Cage's only antagonist. Wait, which one's the bad guy?
It's not John Goodman, is it?
His only problems are with the law. Everything else is just like up to him. If he doesn't break the law, he would live a fine life. But I don't know. I was just thinking about how all their movies are set in the West. Even The Big Lebowski's Los Angeles or Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Why do you got to use so many cuss words? Sam Elliott, by the way, is just the best. He's got the best voice of any actor, I think, maybe ever.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I don't think I just want to if I was an actor and I wanted to do a Sam Elliott impersonation, I'd just hit myself in the throat with a baseball bat until I sounded like him.
Just smoke 2 packs of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And choke yourself.
Yeah. Pretty soon I just sound like this.
One of my favorite things about the Coen Brothers is they are the best at picking extras or featured extras.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All the people in No Country for Old Men,
yes,
who are supposed to be from the middle of Texas in the 80s, look exactly like they're from the middle of Texas from the 80s. They don't look like people from Hollywood who want to be in a movie.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because like you'll see they clearly just like recruited local actors to do this. And because I saw one of like the bit part guys in this movie show up in a movie like 10 years later. I was like, I know that guy from somewhere. And it was just a very similar, like, it was a movie in a very similar setting. And you're like, damn, they just really, like, they pull out all the stops to make sure that No Country was as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
And just like really quick, just to give an example, because I've been talking about like the Coen Brothers doing their show Don't Tell. Like one perfect example of that in No Country for Old Men is when I'm just going to spoil this movie if you haven't seen it really quick, but you should have seen it, and if you haven't, then it's your fault and you better skip ahead. But anyway, when Anton Chigurh kills Woody Harrelson in the hotel room, and you get the you can tell that Chigurh doesn't like to get his boots messed up with blood. So when the blood is creeping over to him and he's talking on the phone, he lifts up his boots. That's how we know later in the movie, because they don't show Anton Chigurh shooting Carla Jean. They show him. They just show them talking, and then they cut to Chigurh walking out of the house. And instead of like, you know, you hear a gunshot or they just show it all together, all you have to do is he just lifts his boot and he looks at the sole of his boot to see if he got any blood on it, and that's how we know he killed her. That's showing, not telling. And that's just one of the ways like the Coen Brothers are so good at like making their audience feel smart and make them like respecting the audience, because I feel like a lesser writer or lesser filmmaker would just show that, and it gets a little tiresome after too long. But that's just one of the things that I don't know that they do so goddamn well. But anyway, that's my number 2, No Country for Old Men. How about you, Ryan?
My number 2 is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yes, sir.
In my opinion, the second greatest Western of all time. That's why it's number 2 on my list.
Hot take?
Very funny, very endearing. Love the bromance between Paul Newman and Robert Redford. It's not like a squishy, lovey-dovey bromance. It's like you kind of feel that both men have their own agendas.
Yeah.
But they compromise and are in some way interested in the same thing, which is, I believe, pride. I think that's what the movie's about. And that's why they come to their demise the way that they do.
Written obviously by William Goldman, who we talked about earlier. One of the great original songs in a movie, I think, in film history. B.J. Thomas, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, was made for this movie.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of Paul Newman's best, one of Robert Redford's best, and between the filmography that both of those guys have, that's really saying something. So, yeah. Good pick. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Joey? You gave us your number 1 already, No Country for Old Men.
Give us an honorable mention.
Yeah.
There Will Be Blood.
If you could only watch No Country for Old Men or There Will Be Blood for the rest of your life.
Oh.
It's tough. Not that here's the thing. Here's the deal. It's not that you like one of them, like if you pick one of them, you never saw the other one. It's like you've seen both of them, you just can't watch them again. You can't watch one of them again.
Well, it's tough because I think No Country for Old Men, it's like that's one of those movies I can just toss on whenever and I'll enjoy it and have a great time. But There Will Be Blood, I feel like has such a rewatch value because it's just so dense, just such an intense character study, and there's so much going on. I'll say There Will Be Blood. I'd rather watch that more.
I just want to add something, and I haven't heard Will's number 1 yet.
I think you know what it is.
Oh shit! Yeah, never mind. Well, I'm just gonna say you guys are fucking squares for not having my number 1 even on your top 5. Yeah, I don't know if you've never seen it, but I mean,
didn't you remember me apologizing in advance? That means I can do whatever I want.
Yeah,
Okay,
what the fuck, Suppe?
go on, Will.
Okay, anyway, my number one is starring Clint Eastwood, also directed by Clint Eastwood, Unforgiven. I love everything about this movie. It's basically about an old retired outlaw picking up his guns one last time and taking revenge. And it's just about like it's the most philosophically charged Western. I think it just like it breaks down all of the elements that we think about. Ryan's making a face, but I don't care. It deals with like the elements of death and like manhood, and
Sounds like a Western.
it talks about it deconstructs it more because it just does things that you wouldn't expect. Like you expect. Obviously, Westerns have taught you to expect a good guy wearing a white hat and a bad guy wearing a black hat. And I think Unforgiven shows you that sometimes that person is – or one person can be both of those. And that's kind of Clint Eastwood in this movie. And Ryan, I know you have some strong thoughts, so I'm gonna let you go ahead.
No, I don't have strong thoughts. I just didn't find Unforgiven to be that interesting.
How many times have you seen it?
Once.
Okay, I think you should. This is kind of a cop out, but I think you should go see it again.
I'll rewatch it. Just felt like a Clint Eastwood movie. Like he's the center of attention. Everyone else in the movie is a minor character. He's obviously going to win at the end because he has the strongest moral compass.
He doesn't win, though. He doesn't really win.
Yes, he does.
No, I'd argue that he loses in this movie. He kills a lot of people and he gets out alive, but I don't think that's winning.
Well,
he loses because he goes back to his old ways.
I'll watch it again. I thought it was boring.
That's tough to hear. That's tough to hear.
I do remember a good bar scene.
Yeah.
When he kills everybody by himself. That was good.
Correct.
I love a good shootout.
Yeah. No, there's a scene so obviously this movie is starring Clint Eastwood, Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman. It's also got Richard Harris, who played Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter movies as English Bob, the gunfighter.
Gene Hackman's the bad guy, right?
Well, that's the thing, is he's the sheriff, and yeah, he is. He's the opposition to Clint Eastwood, and I guess you're rooting for Clint Eastwood against him, but
yeah, he's good in that movie. I remember.
Yeah, no, he's very good. This movie, yeah, so there's this great bar scene where Clint Eastwood shoots someone who's not pointing a gun at him. He's completely unarmed, and he goes, so one of the guys just goes, "You just shot an unarmed man." He's like, "Well, you should have thought about that before you decorated the bar with my friend." Best Clint Eastwood line. He just gives him the signature Clint Eastwood lines, and it's just got like, I don't know. It deconstructs all the elements like courage, and like there's this great character in this movie, the kid that seeks out Clint Eastwood in the first place. Kid who's like, "Oh, I've killed tons of people," and it turns out like he hasn't killed anybody, and he can barely see, so he can't really shoot. So he's not quite as tough as we thought, and he kind of makes Clint Eastwood rethink things. It's just it subverts all the expectations of not only Westerns, but the Clint Eastwood Westerns before this. So
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's best appreciated having seen all of the movies that you had on your list with the Fistful of Dollars trilogy, which obviously I didn't see going into it, but once I see those, I'm gonna have to circle back around and then see this again.
It's the Man with No Name trilogy.
Right. The Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. Good, bad, the ugly, whatnot. You get the idea. Anyway, Unforgiven. That's my number one.
I have to mention that I have to be out of here in the next 10 minutes.
Okay. I'll be quick. Okay. My number one is Once Upon a Time in the West. I mean, an obvious choice. I'm not sure how it didn't make your guys' list.
It's just because I haven't seen it. I've seen Once Upon a Time in America, but I haven't seen this.
I've also not seen this movie.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to do this conversation again at a later date after you guys watch this. Easily an epic, a Western epic. It's probably about 3 hours.
Yeah, that's long.
It feels like about an hour and 25.
Not as long as Once Upon a Time in America, but still.
Yeah.
Very long.
It's starring, what's the guy's name? Ford.
Glenn Ford?
No, the guy from 12 Angry Men.
Oh. I don't know.
Whatever, who cares? It's beautiful. Tense. The music is fantastic. Ennio Morricone again. This is a Sergio Leone movie. Yeah, not much to say other than watch it and enjoy. It's beautiful.
Were you thinking of Henry Fonda?
Yeah,
Henry Fonda. Yeah.
Henry Fonda, Claudia Cardinal, Charles Bronson, Jason Robards, Frank Wolf. 2 hours, 45 minutes.
I do have one thing to add to this conversation. I read online that whenever Vince Gilligan brought on a new director for Breaking Bad, he'd make them watch this movie.
Yeah.
Saying this is what he's going for.
I'm honestly very confused. You guys haven't seen this yet.
I think I started it once, and then I just didn't have enough time to finish it in a timely manner. So I was like, I'll watch this like tomorrow.
Yeah, this is another one.
Putting it off.
This is another one like Thin Red Line, where it starts slow at that railroad scene.
Yeah,
and it's very slow. Yeah, so I get it if you turn it off, but just stick with it. I promise it'll be good. I also started watching Once Upon a Time in America and turned it off because it was too slow for me.
So did you watch the theatrical version or the director's cut?
I don't know.
The 4-hour version.
I don't know. I'll have to look. But, yeah, I'm going to have to give that one another shot. But that scene at the beginning where the phone is ringing for like fucking 3 minutes, give me a break. I'm not going to listen to that.
Very long.
I don't know what you're trying to do here, but nobody wants to listen to that. They're watching a movie. And it's a phone ringing over and over again.
Yeah, no, it's Robert De Niro's just passed out at this Chinese, I don't know what you'd call it.
Opium
den.
Yeah.
He's just baked out of his mind. And he just here's a phone. Like the first 3 minutes, just like ring, ring, ring.
Yeah.
Except it's it's very high pitched. Ring, ring, ring on repeat for 3 minutes. Well, then after that, be damn good. And see Robert De Niro in prosthetics, and it's always funny when you see an actor in an older movie wearing makeup to look old when you already know what he looks like at that age. And so the old makeup just looks preposterous, but that's neither here nor there. So that's our top 5 Westerns. If you agree with the list, let us know. If you think we missed anything important, also let us know. Let's get into, because Joey's getting out of here pretty soon. We can briefly talk about what we watched. I don't think I watched anything. I think I finished Red Dead Redemption. Speaking of Westerns, a very good Western. I would highly recommend it. If it wasn't the movie, I'd talk about it, but it's not. So Joey and Ryan, I'll let you go.
I started watching this docuseries on Netflix called Dogs, and each episode is a mini documentary about a dog and how it affects the people around it. It's actually, some of the episodes are pretty good, I'm not going to lie. Well done. They have one that's like a dog shelter in Costa Rica, and it's a horrible place, and where they take in all of these stray dogs. So that one was really interesting. There was another one about dogs that help people with epilepsy. That one was really good. So if you just want looking for some easy watching, I would definitely recommend it.
I watched The Big Lebowski today.
Any
that's
better?
all to report. No, exactly the same, which is 10 out of 10. Watched
movie.
another episode of Sabrina, which is, it's still okay.
When is the fucking cat gonna talk?
The cat will not talk, I'm certain now.
I'm gonna write a letter.
Yeah. But there's an interesting episode about dreams and the dream demon. It's kind of cool. Not the best writing I've ever seen, but I thought it was all right.
Sounds like a very watchable series. Sounds like a perfect Netflix series, I'd say.
It is the epitome of a Netflix series. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a pretty good way to end it. So, do we have any idea what the hell we're going to see next week, or are we just going to wing it?
Is there anything coming out?
It's
I
Thanksgiving.
want to see that Widows movie.
Oh, right, the Steve McQueen movie.
But I'm down for whatever.
The Steve McQueen, the director, not the actor.
Oh, he made
Yeah.
a new movie?
Yeah,
That's 12 Years a Slave, right?
correct.
That guy?
Yep. 12 Years a Slave, Shame, Hunger. Need him to give Michael Fassbender something productive to do with his career. He just doesn't know what to do without him. Anyway, you've listened to Only Pod Forgives. See you guys next week.
Peace out.